Welcome to the return of Johanna Carroll's Dialogue with Divinity. The conversation continues. Friendship, dating, relationships, and divine complement. These are just a few of the essential elements that Johanna will be discussing in this episode, where her topic will be aquarian-age-relationships. And now we bring you our host, international intuitive, author, and spiritual teacher, Johanna Carroll.
Hi, everybody. It's Johanna Carroll, your spiritual mama on Metaphysical Talk Radio. And the name of our show is Dialogue with Divinity. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm really excited about this topic because it's something that is near and dear to my heart and hopefully your heart as well. It's all about having a relationship in this present moment that we're in, referred to as the Aquarian age. So today is all about Aquarian age relationships, and part of that is not just the metaphysical part of it, it's the practical part. You as a couple, you as an individual person, how are you managing your relationship with yourself, your relationship with others during this really unusual time that we're living in? So, Gary, this should be an interesting show, as always, right?
Yes, absolutely. And another very, very needed show. And I also wanted to just have, while you give me this brief space, to thank people who have been listening to and downloading our program. The responses have been overwhelming, particularly in this stage of the game during these series of programs that we're doing. And the conversation continues. And when we're done with this, we'll be doing another season after taking a break. But I just want to thank all of those who have been participating with us as listeners as well.
Yeah, I do too. And I know a lot of you were very curious about our spiritual activism show that we did, which was really interesting for both of us because you all need to know that our shows are not scripted. We just kind of say, okay, this is what we're going to talk about this week, and then we just kind of go from there. So I really feel that we're really guided by spirit, not to get overly woo-woo on anybody. We're really guided by spirit and the wisdom of the divine, that I personally have been working with and accessing for, 37 years. I do want you to know this, though. It's not about me. It's not about Gary. It's not even really about the title of the show. It's about the wisdom that's coming through and how you can apply it to your everyday life. So this topic of relationships, from being a spiritual counselor, obviously is a big one that shows up all the time. The interesting thing, though, Gary, is we're navigating life so differently right now, including relationships.
Yep.
So, I've had so many people that have called, texted, email, and said, I'm particularly during the lockdown. I mean, the big lockdown. I'm really struggling. I'm all alone. They're, not letting anybody in my building. They've shut down the gym. They've shut down this is big, right? And so I would say that a lot of people that are by themselves, it's really been a stress on your soul, and I really understand that. So we're going to go over some really profound spiritual teachings that are part of a book that I wrote, and it's my last book. I have 4 books. It's called The Lost Art of Loving. And by the way, it's not a sexual manual. It's really a guidebook for living your life from the inside out, with or without relationship, with or without partner. So I want you to know this is not a dating manual, because we have to take a look at the concept of relationships, family, friends, our neighbors, an intimate relationship that we're having. So what I wanted to start with was the concept from a spiritual metaphysical point of view. This word love gets bandied about a lot. So right on the cover of this book, this was a channeled message, and it says, love is the bonding agent that gives us life and never abandons us. We abandon love. So I want you to think of the word love as a noun, not a verb. Right now we're talking about a divine state of wholeness. And so when they say that love, by the way, when I'm saying they, I'm referring to the guides and the teachers and the counsel groups that work through me. I work for them, I guess. Love is the bonding agent. It's kind of like love gets poured into the body and gives us life. So that's our divine wholeness. Some people refer to it as life force, chi, prana. It's you. It's you as a spiritual being birthed within the container of the human form. So if we take a look at love as wholeness, we also have to take a look at how we are love, how we recognize that divinity in another person, and then how we give and receive love. So I just wanted to read a little short section from this book because I think it's really fascinating. By the way, this book was written after I had heart surgery, emergency heart surgery. Talk about love-based heart being the pillow for the soul. And it took me about 4 months to write it. Most of it was channeled. I didn't necessarily sign up for writing a fourth book, but the universe signed me up. So love is wholeness. Everyone has a different perception of happiness. We crave love. How we love and how have we forgotten how to love? Can we give and receive love that will fill our hearts like a cup overflowing with joy, bliss, and happiness? Is love so elusive that it falls like the coarse sands of time between our fingers? Are we running out of time for love? Have we given up? It's almost too much to process, and therein lies the challenge. We spend so much time analyzing love and trying to figure out love that we forget what we already know. We are love. So when I got that, I'm dialogue with divinity. I'm very conversational with the other side. It's like, really? What the heck does that mean? I'm love. So if I'm love, universe, okay, then you've got to prove it to me. So I don't see some flaming arrow, shooting into my heart by Cupid or anything like that. So when we go to that understanding that love is divine wholeness, that has nothing to do with another person, generally what will happen is through the law of reflection, we're going to see our reflection of love through other people. And this is why we're attracted. And it may just be friends or somebody at work. And when I say attraction, I'm not talking about a sexual attraction. I'm talking about a soul attraction. There's a big difference. There's a big difference between sexual intimacy and soul intimacy. So it's really important, I think, to understand both, because then we understand ourselves. So generally what happens is when we work on ourselves, and I think a lot of you that are listening, I don't think you would really be listening to our show if you weren't a seeker, a spiritual seeker on a quest of some kind, maybe unconsciously. So the thing of it is, right now, when I have so many people calling saying, you, Johanna, you have no idea how hard it is to be alone. And yet I remember my sister, before she died of cancer, saying to me, you can be in a room full of people and still feel alone. So first of all, for those of you that are alone or those of you that are not alone, this time, the channel is talking about time, this concept of time. This time that we're in the Aquarian age, is really asking us to revisit our perception, our idea of relationships, our relationship with ourselves, self-love, our relationship with others, and what this concept of love really means to us. Owning that for ourselves and then sharing it with others and welcoming the receiving of love. So it's really a huge energy field is what it is. So we're here to develop relationships based on friendship first. So again, this is not just about I'm out there, I'm single, I'm all alone in my apartment or my house. No, this is for everyone. Because I feel, Gary, that the lockdown's been hard on lots of levels. And it's also, I don't want to get overly woo and say, oh, this is the best thing that happened. It's not necessarily the best thing that happened. It's a major kick in the butt on some level from the universe. Mm-hmm. However, has it given us an opportunity to take a look at aquarian-age relationships, the concept of love? What does that mean? I mean, I've had clients that have called me who have said, my marriage is falling apart. So I do want people that are alone to understand that even though you are by yourself, you're never alone. We have the entire universe at our beck and call. But you want a tactile relationship. I get that. Understand, though, all relationships, personal, professional, family, friends, even your relationship with you, your relationship with your partner if you have one, they're undergoing a metamorphosis. And so I really feel that's part of the kick in the butt by the universe. We've got to take a look at what your perception is, what you've been programmed to believe, and what's the reality of where you are right now and where you'd like to be in the future. I always say the present moment, guess what? It's the 24 hours that you are in. So, on some level, I'm going to say this to women. I don't care if you're in a relationship, not in a relationship. Stop being a therapist to the world, unless that's your profession and you're getting compensated for it. And stop trying to be everybody's mother. I know that I call myself, well, actually, Gary, you call me the spiritual mama. But when you look at something from a spiritual point of view, guess what? You're not judging. And the first thing that one of my teachers taught me, I don't know, almost 40 years ago, was the law of non-interference. You never give, particularly spiritual information or advice to anyone unless you have their permission. And the reason for that is because when you interfere and you haven't done it in a sacred way, you take on some of their karma. And my assumption is, for those of you that are listening, that you got plenty of your own karma. Karma is just unfinished business. But the reality is we each have our own journey. So we have to look at an Aquarian age relationship. It's definitely going to look a lot different than a Piscean age relationship, which was very codependent, and Aquarian age is interdependent. So this is visually what it would look like. The light of your spirit, the light of the other individual spirit, and then there's the third light. That's the dynamic of relationship. So just from the dating point of view, it's all relationships that have longevity are built on divine friendship first. Take your time. It's not like you're a psychic spy or anything. Take time to really listen, to be present. Let this person tell you about themselves, who they are today, not their past relationship mistakes, or they wish they had done things differently. Where they are today, right now in the present moment. Because we are in a journey of evolution, advancing. That's Aquarian age. Piscean age energy, where you're stuck. Oh my gosh, the same relationship, nothing's getting better, we're always arguing. The same kind of person is showing up. Why can't I have love? That's repeat. So how do you change it? By shifting your consciousness first. And I know it sounds rather easy to do that, so I'd like to give you what I included in this book, The Lost Art of Loving. It's called 5 Steps to Progressive Partnership. Again, I know a lot of people out there have a lot of challenges with their birth family. And I could tell you, Gary, that I definitely was/am one of those. But at one point, I had to let go. I had to love without expecting anything back. So the first step is friendship that is divinely enamored of itself. The next thing is dating. You're going to date yourself. You're going to date this other person. You're going to date your partner, maybe in a brand new way. Then you have relationship. Then you have partnership. Then you have what I call divine complement. They are a complement to who and what you already are. So, there's this big soulmate. Where's my soulmate? I don't think this is news for a lot of you, but you really weren't born with any parts missing spiritually. There's nobody that's supposed to come and fill in a space in your experience of life. You are whole unto yourself. So I really think it's important for people to understand, if you'd like to call this the mate of the soul or the divine complement, but we have more than one as we go through life, through our evolutionary journey, through progressive partnership. And for some of you that are listening, maybe you don't want to get married. Maybe you're fine with that. Maybe you really enjoy being single, and that's fine. So friendship, dating, always start with dating yourself. Friendship is self-love. Then you open the door to the potential and probability of welcoming and inviting the gift of love, divine wholeness of another, into your life. So we sort of have to look at it a little bit differently in the Aquarian age. And again, don't think just because you're not with a partner that everybody that's out there with partner in this lockdown is having a grand old time. Because I'm going to tell you, it's brought up a lot of issues and challenges. The beauty is, though, and this is really nice, Gary, a lot of people are falling in love again in a new, different way with their partner. They're seeing the support that they're getting from and with each other. And the relationship that maybe had some snarky stuff going on has really become very, very peaceful. So, the whole desire for oneness, love, connection is really shifting and changing. So we're here to experience life, and you've got to develop all relationships based on friendship first. And I know it really sounds weird, but even with your family, we all sort of have a pecking order in the birth modality. Are you friends with your family? Are you, do you have a crown on your head where everybody's adoring you and expecting you to take care of them? That might be okay if you're open to that. This is beyond borders, beyond line in the sand. That's old energy. So relationships and love within a relationship is reinventing itself. Just like the world is, the universe is really asking us on some level not to psychoanalyze it, not to overthink it, but to get quiet and go within and ask for love to be revealed to me in a new and a different way. So there's a group that I work with once a week, and we started this in March. And one of the things, and we're all on Zoom, so, it's not like we're in the same room. We have this thing that we do every week, and I'm really going to share it with all of you because it works. If we're having a bad day, either by ourselves or with somebody else, or, you're on social media and you're trying not to react in a negative way, you wrap your arms around yourself like a big prayer shawl and you say, be with me, be with me, be with me. It immediately calms down the anxiousness. You're really calling in the beauty of love as a divine state of wholeness to be realized and recognized in your life. You're calling in your guides and teachers. You're calling in the angels of heaven. You're basically saying, I don't want to do this alone. I recognize I'm not alone. So I'm inviting you to be with me. Really what you're saying is love, my divine state, be with me, create peace for me. So it's a fascinating time. It's a stressful time for a lot of people. The beauty of it, though, that I'm seeing, Gary, and maybe you are too, is people are making different decisions about where their fulfillment is coming from. So, I feel we have this emotional bank account, and it really is about being happy. The Dalai Lama says, we can't grow spiritually unless we're happy. It's like, oh, well, that's easy. How do I make that happen? Have a love affair with yourself first. It's not about being selfish. It's serving your own soul first. So I'm just curious what your input and thoughts are. And I'm not picking on the women, but I do need you to say that it is the age of the divine feminine. So, we kind of said, okay, well, I'll be born during this Aquarian age. We are really, through our behavior, through our experience, we really are a guiding hand for a lot of the male energy on the earth right now. It's not necessarily even about being a man or a woman. It's energy. It's the dynamic of the force of love, the receptive quality of love. Maybe it's our job to light the way. But for those of you, male or female, that are trying to be somebody's therapist or parent, you're never going to receive the kind of love from that other person. You know why? Because traditionally, that child has to leave the parent and they may be done with their therapy. So be an active listener with an open heart, welcoming, giving, and receiving love. So I don't mean to be lecturing everyone, but I feel really strongly about this. I really do. And I loved writing this book, by the way. I love writing the book because it talks about the age of enlightenment. It talks about family relationships. It talks about, the one and soulmates. How do you feel about that? Do you hear that a lot? Where's my soulmate?
Yeah. Well, I use it myself. I consider my wife to be my soulmate. But I think, there's a lot that has to go into that, though. I think you don't immediately find or recognize your soulmate right away. I think it's something that you discover and that emerges through time. I think based on the time that we've been together and the longevity of that time together and really understanding each other better and better and better, we've come to recognize, and it also has lent itself to some research and discovery of our past lives. And the reality of those factors, that yes, we are soulmates because we have been together before. So our relationship does transcends time. But like I said, it's something that it takes time for you to discover. You see these people, they say, "Oh, I found my soulmate." Oh my gosh,
I know the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. There's no way in the world you can know that.
I don't think so, because really what you're saying is, the chemistry is really good. And, physical chemistry is wonderful. I'm saying, okay, maybe the match got lit and there's a little fire and a little passion there. However, that flame can burn out rather quickly. So wouldn't you rather just nurture that and have the journey of discovery, which is what you're saying, to soul chemistry? So it's not a superficial thing. There's some depth to it. And I think maybe that's really what the Aquarian age is really trying to show us. Take your time. And so a lot of people have gone into relationships with a checkoff list. And the checkoff list is not a karmic checkoff list. It's a list of requirements. And so there's a difference between a list of requirements and a manifestation list. So let's talk about that a little bit. We exist in 4 planes of awareness: spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. You have an opportunity in your dialogue with divinity to really call in love at a very high frequency level. So to me, I call it divine complement. They're complement to who and what you already are. So maybe as an exercise, you take a piece of paper or you go on the computer and you write the word love, big bold letters at the top. And then you've got 4 sections. Spiritual, always start with spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. What you are doing is it's a self-process that you're doing of discovery of the characteristics of love being shared in a relationship that really make your heart sing. So this is what it would look like. So when I say spiritual, I'm not talking about religion. However, if you do have a spiritual practice or a religion, and that's really important to you, you've got to put it down. But, let's just do the generic thing and say a belief in a higher power. So if you really are a spiritual person and someone is saying, I worship the devil or I'm an agnostic, I don't mean to be trite, but obviously it's probably not going to work. So really what you're going to do is, what does it mean? Seriously. It's like, okay, that's not going to work for me today. Mm-hmm. So in the spiritual column, what would it mean to you for you to be a spiritual person? And what would it feel really yummy and warm and nurturing to have someone that's also spiritual? What are the qualities spiritually that are valuable for you? Here's why we start with the spiritual world first. A lot of people go to the physical first. That's I don't know about you, Gary. I was single for a long time before I married my second husband, 29 years actually. And there was a lot of very good looking men that I dated. And you know what? After a while, they weren't so good looking anymore. So they weren't so cute. So my thing is, I want to start with the spiritual. So why is that? Because the desires of the soul are birthed from your spiritual plane of awareness. That's the depth. That's the connection. A lot of people say, just doesn't get me. This person just doesn't get me. It's because they don't know you. So you've got to take some time in that journey of discovery, particularly in the age that we're in right now. Because we all want that support, that anchor, that someone we can lean on, not to do it for us, but to be there to support us. Okay, so the desires of the soul come from the spiritual realm. That's got to happen first. Then you go to the mental plane of awareness. It doesn't mean that they have to think exactly like you. However, what I've always found in relationships that really work for people is I'm inspired mentally to learn something new and different from this person. They may have an experience of life, maybe they were an artist, maybe they were a fireman, maybe they were a policeman, maybe they were a doctor, maybe they worked in an office. There's always, it's a journey of discovery. So you don't have to sit there and, I need this, I need that. I had this past relationship and it didn't work and, this will never work for me. No. Active listening. You've got to listen to your own soul's desires first, because what does the mind say? The mind says, this is what I would want. So desires spiritually, wants mentally. Why? Because we go to the higher mind, superconsciousness, guided by the desires of the soul. This is going to say, it's not that this is what's missing. This is what I really want intellectually in a relationship. To be inspired, to be motivated, and maybe learn something new. Okay, and then we have the emotional plane of awareness. Again, pillow for the soul. This is your heart. This is your feelings. This is your emotional self. From the other person, it would be extremely valuable for you to write down that they are emotionally available. Does it mean that they've gone to therapy for 20 years and have to share all their therapy sessions? No. But they have to be available emotionally. In other words, it's okay to be vulnerable and have these conversations that might be a little uncomfortable. It's also an opportunity for you to share as an individual person what nurtures you emotionally. I hear this a lot from people that are in families. my mother just doesn't listen to me. All I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. This is men and women are telling me the same story. And it can be mother, it can be father, it can be brother, sister, uncle, cousin. You need to do this. You have to do this. You are born in this culture. This is the rules of our culture. Oh, wow. That's a big one right now in the Aquarian age. I'm not saying blast away your cultural traditions. How can they advance to serve yourself, your soul? Where's your unique individual self? What is the emotional fulfillment so you can wake up in the morning and be happy in your heart? So that cup of the heart flows with love, your own divine love, and the support that you're receiving from your community, from your family, people you're working with, or someone you're having an intimate relationship with. And by the way, this is a great manifestation module for co-creating with the divine for a new relationship as well, whether it's a new job, new relationship with family, or a beloved. So the last one, Gary, is always the physical plane of awareness. This is the world of results. This is where we manifest the stuff. You know, if it's important for you that this person owns their own home, write it down. If it's important to you that this person is healthy, you know, that physically, you know, they like to exercise and they're not a couch potato, write it down. If you want somebody that's going to sit and watch, you know, movies with you, write it down. These are the things, it's called the land of results. So everything that you put down spiritually, mentally, emotionally, guess what? It's going to be created in the world that you live in, which is the physical plane of awareness. Now, if you're very invested in height, weight, muscles, X amount of dollars in the bank account, what kind of car they're driving, it's kind of external stuff. Don't start with that. Don't start with that because it will fail you on every single level. Does it mean you can't have particular guidelines? I doubt that you'd want to necessarily feel totally responsible for supporting another person financially, particularly in this crazy world that we're in right now. So you put that down. What does that mean? Where's the co-creation? You know, do we buy a house together? That should be the last thing. And by the way, that kind of a discussion does not even happen with someone until you are moving from relationship to partnership. So you've got what? 3 other steps. Friendship, dating, relationship. Now you start negotiation, particularly if you're going to be moving in together. And Gary, you know, that's a really big thing that I've seen this in a lot of relationships. People are afraid to talk about money. We need to, so that's even, you know, going for a job interview. You can use this formula, by the way, you guys, for anything. But here's the main thing. We have to be okay with knowing where our comfort of fullness comes from. And I really believe in my heart and soul, and I'm a testament to this, that we have a divine treasure chest. It doesn't mean you're going to sit on your heels and, you know, twiddle your thumbs and God's going to knock on the door and give you a check for $2 million. It doesn't work like that because in the land of results, the physical plane, you've got to apply the law of action. The same thing with relationships. Nobody's going to knock on your door. What are you going to do to go out there, law of action, and make the changes? And the first changes that you make is in your consciousness. Is how you think about this, how you feel about it. Desires of the soul, wants of the mind, the feelings of the heart, and guess what? Physical realm is my needs. I need air to breathe. I need food to eat and survive. I've got to have water. I can do without food, but I can't do without water. So this is where you nurture yourself. So I wanted you to think of this like the Garden of Heaven. All these thoughts that you're putting down, and don't say this out loud until, you know, you may go back and say, oh no, I gotta erase that. I'm gonna change that. You know, this is a sacred event that I'm encouraging you to do. Turn off the phone, turn off the computer, light a candle, get quiet within yourself. This is what you say. Show me love. Show me love. Not a love of another, a love of me, my own divine reflection first. Then you start to write, because spiritual desires, mental wants, emotional feelings. That's where you really connect heart to heart. And then physical plane of awareness, the needs that I would like to have met. You got to meet them yourself, and then you collectively meet them. And here's the thing, Gary. I don't know if you've been hearing this, but a lot of people are definitely cleaning out their friendship closet right now. And I don't know if that's a good, bad thing. If it helps you evolve and advance, then I think it is a positive thing. So the karmic closet is, this doesn't fit me anymore. This relationship doesn't fit. I'm not suited for this anymore. It doesn't reflect who I really am. It's not about you. It's about the energy that's surrounding you and the energy that's coming to you. So I think it's very important in the aquarian age relationships that we really understand, our desires, our wants, our feelings, and our needs. So I've been doing a lot of talking, and I don't mean to be lecturing everybody. I do want to remind you that the book is called The Lost Art of Loving. It was really an honor to write this book. I really felt like the masters were really speaking through me. And by the way, at the end of the book, there's like a whole question and answer thing, which I felt really valuable, and also a whole list of mantras. So should we take a little break and then come back, Gary?
Sure. We'll do that.
All right, let's take a little break. We'll be right back.
This is Gary Purefoy, co-owner and program director of MTR, with a very important announcement. Now, what you've come to know to be Metaphysical Talk Radio over the past several years will soon be changed to Metaphysical Talk Podcasting. Now, we will retain our main feature programs, which is Johanna Carroll's Dialogue with Divinity, the Triple Goddess Moon Hour, the Time to Om Hour, and a new program entitled Metaphysical Talk Forum with Inga Purefoy. Now, the live streaming station of Metaphysical Talk Radio will be replaced by the Unified Arts Radio Network, a program format devoted to celebrating our diversity and the harmonious and unifying exchange between cultures which takes place in the performing arts and entertainment, which has also been known as the universal language. Now, you will still be able to locate our main podcast features on Metaphysical Talk Radio where you've always found them, starting with our main website at metaphysicaltalkradio.com and other podcast distribution platforms. Now, the exact date of this change from Metaphysical Talk Radio to the Unified Arts Radio Network has yet to be determined. However, we encourage you to continue with us, watch this space, and we'd like to thank you for being a part of our listening family and encourage you to continue to do so even in the future when we enter into our new assignment, which will be the Unified Arts Radio Network. Until that time, take care, be safe, and we'll see you soon. We are about 8 weeks away, to be exact, as far as the kickoff to the Unified Arts Radio Network, where the changeover in our stream broadcasting will be. However, I also want to be very clear that Metaphysical Talk Radio is really not going to go anywhere. It'll be Metaphysical Talk Podcasting. But in addition to that, we have decided to take the program, the feature programs, including this one, Dialogue with Divinity with Johanna Carroll, to include it on our Sunday format, which will be our Soulful Sundays, where you'll get to hear live stream programs of Dialogue with Divinity, Dialogue, the best of Dialogue with Divinity, and Dialogue with Divinity, the conversation continues, along with the Metaphysical Talk Forum, and perhaps even some of the other features that we have retained from Metaphysical Talk Radio. So to be clear, Metaphysical Talk Radio is not going anywhere. The website will remain up. You'll still be able to access this program and our other main features from that particular entity. And then you will have Dialogue with Divinity every Sunday when we begin our new project in the Garinger Broadcasting Network of the Unified Arts Radio Network. So, Johanna, you will still play a very significant role in everything that we do here.
That's good. I'm happy to hear that. I really do love this. I also wanted to mention, for those of you that are single out there, we're switching from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age energy. And so maybe some of your families, I've heard this a lot, Gary, I'm running out of time. My clock is ticking, particularly from women. I understand that. And there's a lot of pressure from a lot of families. Why aren't you married? When am I going to be a grandparent? That kind of thing. Boy, we need to take a look at that in an Aquarian age environment. And it's a lot to talk about. So I do want to announce that I have been asked, and I'm definitely going to do it probably in September, to give a little class, not a little class, but a class on relationships for the solo or the single soul. And this can be someone that's never been married. You've been married, you're divorced. You could be a widow or a widower. There's a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of false illusion around that. So I think, I really wanted to put something together to help people. So you can go to my website. I haven't even put this up yet. We are in the process of doing this. So you can go to my website, johannacarroll.com, JohannaCarroll.com. You'll see that there's some new classes that are coming up. I've got a beautiful video, audio, metaphysical, the soul of Sedona. We can do a virtual retreat together. We've been spending the last 4 months on that. It's beautiful. That'll be up soon too. But Gary, you know what I wanted to get back to? I hear this a lot. What's the lesson that I need to learn from this relationship? Okay, stop, everybody. Stop. If by this point in your life, unless you're like 10 years old, my assumption is that you've got all the information from your experiences of life, because it is a big schoolroom. And if you want to call those, what's the lesson I needed to learn? You know what it is. In the Aquarian age, we are in the PhD program of spirituality, evolution, and advancement. So I think instead of you saying, what's my life lesson? It's what's the blessing and how has my wisdom expanded? That's a big difference. Because when we say the lesson, I've got to repeat it. Okay, if I repeat this lesson enough, am I going to, graduate from this? So the reality is this. When you do life differently, based on what you learned from those previous life lessons, you are now applying wisdom. Wisdom is from the soul. Being smart and intellect, that comes from the conscious mind. We need both. This is what the Aquarian age is all about. It's the wholeness, the oneness of working with the self and the soul. So wisdom coming from the soul, it's an application of an action activated by a desire for a better day and a better way of living from your heart and your soul. So if you feel like, these relationships aren't working, it's the same old thing, what do I need to learn from this? Get quiet. The question to the higher self, the superconscious self, along with your guides and teachers, that basically very connected, is show me the blessing. What's the blessing? Wisdom. It's what you've learned about yourself, not about the other person. Why is that beneficial? Because sometimes the universe can be a little tricky, and that same kind of relationship may show up. Is it the universe punishing you or testing you? No, it's actually you testing yourself. I think you've passed the test. Aren't you guys tired of this? Taking the same test over and over again? I know I would be. So the reality is, you always want to, in the Aquarian age of expansion, advancement, ascension, rising up above the suffering, let those clouds part to show you the blessings of divine wisdom. Those are the aha moments. So in the unconscious self, in the subconscious, we store a lot of stuff, Gary. We store stuff from the past, traditional therapy, cognitive therapy. We talk about the fact that some things that have been traumatic will not be released from the subconscious to the conscious mind until we as the adult are really able to handle it. So it really is a blessing from the universe on some level. And yet oftentimes it's so uncomfortable that we shove it down because we don't want to deal with it. And, particularly, I'm not picking on the women today, but I know lots of times, you have a struggle when someone will not go to therapy and work on themselves. But again, you're not their therapist. So men and women process information very differently. Our thought patterns are different. Our feelings are different. Be okay. You don't want to clone. Allow this person to process in their own time without making any demands. So does that come from Piscean survival energy, or is that coming from Aquarian thriving energy? Gary, we have a new language now. We really do. Even if you take a look at social media and the news, don't you see that there's like a new language showing up?
In some degree, yeah. I guess it takes on different names, but yeah, I think there is.
Well, if we look at the conscious energy of community right now and brotherhood, we say that Yeshua, Jesus, was here to teach us brotherhood, community, and kindness. And Buddha was here to teach us wisdom. Not to teach us, but to show us how to get there. They were guides. So here we are in this Aquarian age of advanced wisdom, which, by the way, is fabulous because it means a lot of higher end information is being channeled. It's always been there. We just frequency-wise can tap into it a lot easier now. And so I think that we have to take a look on an individual level. What's your repeat pattern around yourself? What are you telling the world? So, it's the age of oneness, community. I know I see the word tribe a lot. I think the word tribe is sort of an antiquated Piscean word on some level because tribe to me represents separation. Community to me is oneness. I'm just curious about what your thoughts are.
I agree with that because tribe is different groups are separated. Tribe is how a specific separation of people are identified, but a community is one. A tribe has to have an identification. If you're a part of a tribe, you have to have an identification. This is where we also get tribalism has entered into politics, where it is also called identification politics. So tribalism, yes, you're right. It's polarizing because if you're part of a tribe, then you have to name that tribe. You have to be identified by that tribe. If you're part of a community, you are one. You are all.
Well, also, I think with the tribe, there's lots of labels and rules. You can be part of our tribe, but you've gotta wear certain clothes, you gotta talk a certain talk, you gotta live a certain. That's really separation on some level.
You have to wear colors too. I think.
I do think, though, naturally, the soul for those of you that have had, life experiences before, and I think the majority of us have, our soul said, okay, I'm going to come back and do it again. Let's see what happens in the Aquarian age. I think we do relate to tribal consciousness because it's a memory of our soul that maybe in another lifetime actually did serve us. We were very nomadic. Maybe we were attached to a particular religion. And I'm not saying religion is bad, but I think we're also I'm even seeing within the structure and the guidelines of religions, they're changing the rules a lot, which I guess is good. But you know what I always say, Gary, spirituality is the umbrella over all religion. So we're not making anything wrong or right. We're just saying, can you, those of you that are listening, take a look at where you have been limiting yourselves with a tribal consciousness rather than a oneness or a community consciousness. And why is that important in terms of relationships? Because it affects everything. Relationships are the new temple of learning. I'm going to repeat that. Relationships are the new temple of learning. Not about learning about the other person, but learning about yourself. And really, the lessons are over. Well, if the lessons are over, what is the universe saying? You've got to apply the wisdom that you know really exists within you. Is it called doing the right thing? Is it following the rules? I don't think it's following a particular set of rules, but maybe it's following a particular guideline spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically that really work for you. So it's a fascinating time to be alive and revisit our relationships. And, I personally, I detached myself from a group that I was part of because I didn't feel that my journey was being nurtured. It was just same old, same old, same old, same old. I didn't see any progressive movement, but the main thing is I didn't see kindness for fellow humanity. And it's like, this just does not work for me. I don't want to hear about you can't wait to go shopping again. I don't want to hear about when I can get my nails done. I want to hear about who can I help today? Even if it's just a phone call saying, hey, I'm just checking in. That's the kindness, the community, and the wisdom that the masters were trying to teach us. I'm not trying to preach. This is my opinion, but I will tell you it's also the way I've lived my life. And you know what? It's working for me. So
it's very important though, Mom. I mean, it has to be said, and I don't consider it preaching at all. You're nurturing us, you're feeding us, and as it pertains to the proper exchange between human beings. Yeah. Because, I think you mentioned about are we being forced to look at things and to relate to each other differently today? Yes, we are. Because we're recognizing that it is a necessity in order for us to survive.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd like to say thrive. I'd like to go from surviving to thriving.
I like that better too. Yeah.
So surviving is Piscean energy. Supposedly, according to all of the teachers on this, I'm not sure right, wrong, or whatever, the Aquarian age really kicked in around 2010, 2012. I actually think it was before then. So we've talked about it before. The Dwarpas in the Hindu tradition, the ages, they're about 12,000 years long. We ended one. Think of everything that happened. So it really was about suffering and sacrifice and greed and jealousy. And it was very, very codependent. So, we learned in the 90s, that's not working anymore, which is good. So we evolved, so now we're looking for interdependence. Got to start with us first. So I really think, gosh, Gary, we could do a whole lecture series on this. This is just, to me, it's such a fascinating subject. And one of my mantras that I created, besides be with me, and I'm going to tell you, I use that a lot. It's just so calming, is be the master of your mind and the mistress of your soul. Be the divine feminine voice in your thinking, and be the loving, nurturing divine feminine in your heart and your soul. So be the master of your mind and the mistress of your soul. I just want to remind you that The Lost Art of Loving and actually all of my books can be found on Amazon.com. This book is really life-changing. Life-changing for me. I came out of surgery and I was meditating and I heard The Lost Art of Loving and I'm like, what is that? And then they showed me a book and I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding. You want me to write another book? And I did. And you know what? I'm glad that I did because it's really helped a lot of people. And I hope the conversation continuing on Dialogue with Divinity that we had today about Aquarian age relationships has really helped a lot of you. Because that's what Gary and I have created, an environment to really not tell you what to do, but to hopefully guide you to more love and peace and joy and fulfillment. So we want to remind you that our show is Dialogue with Divinity. The conversation continues. I guess we're all over the internet. If you go to Metaphysical Talk Radio, you'll find all the connections for that. And Gary's already shared with you. When is the new? I don't want to call it a label.
The new streaming station.
Oh, okay. Yeah. When is the new station going to be taking effect?
It will most likely be in September, very start. Yeah, so it'll be, like I said, we're about 8 weeks out, and it will take an effect on September. And there'll be plenty of news to that effect. I mean, you'll hear announcements on the current stream as well. We've already been transitioning the program, which has also done very, very well, too. But this program has its place because it lends itself to what we're trying to bring, which is, the media is dominated by either right or left. You get a right-wing message, you get a left-wing. People don't really want that. People want this. People want a way that we can learn how to relate with each other or relate to each other without the existence of labels. And that's why I'm so glad that you brought that out about community versus tribe, because that's the reason why you will hear this program always be associated with what we do here at Garinger Media. But yes, we're looking at September is when it will be.
Good. Okay, so I've got September for my relationships for the solo soul happening. By the way, on my website, johannacarroll.com, you'll see a library of radio shows. You click on that and you can listen for as long as you want. So first of all, we want to, thank you all. I hope you're having a good summer, a blessed day. And let's just end with giving ourselves a really big hug. Take a deep breath. Be with me. Be with me. We all wish you tremendous love flowing from your heart to the entire universe, sending you love, light, beauty, peace, and truth. We'll speak with you soon. Remember to be kind to yourself and let love illuminate your path every moment of the day. So bye for now.